Welcome to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, a window into the soul of the North Fork of Long Island. We'll delve into the pulse of our community, its pressing issues, promising opportunities, and the rich stories that weave our shared history. I'm your host, Christopher Bianchi, and for episode 116, we sit down with Tom Foster, a thoughtful voice in our community whose story spans cities and coast, eventually bringing him to the quiet charm of Peconic and then to Orient. In our conversation, Tom reflects on his journey, his early involvement with the beloved Orient Country Store, and the pride he feels seeing his daughter Miriam and her partner Grayson as they continue its legacy. We also talk about Tom's deep appreciation for public libraries and his hopes for the future of the North Fork, its people, its places, and the values that bind them. So I hope you enjoy episode 116 with Tom Foster. This episode was recorded March 28th, 2025. Thank you so much for coming on to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast today. I'm looking forward to talking with you.
Good. I'm glad to be here. I spend a lot of time in this library, so this is one of the few times I get to go downstairs.
So just to start off, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Okay, I was born in Brooklyn in 1947. My father was in the Navy during the war, and he stayed in the Navy after the war. So we moved around quite a bit, but I always consider myself a New Yorker. When I finished college and then law school, and Dinah and I were married right at the end of that period. We traveled around a lot. We lived in San Francisco, we lived in Boston, Ann Arbor, Cleveland, Bethesda. But all that time we thought, we really need to go to New York. We need to go back to New York. So finally, when Miriam, our youngest, graduated from high school, at a public school in Bethesda, we sold the house and moved to New York. And we were in the city, and then we decided, well, we'd like to have another alternative, not just to live right in the middle of the city all the time. So we explored. I had two criteria. The first one was water. Wanted to be on the water. Could it be a river or a lake or whatever, but the ocean is obviously the best. And had to be available by public transportation. And although we now live in Orient, and I guess that you could consider the Jitney public transportation, we more or less rely on the train. So we do drive either to Greenport or Ronkonkoma. So it's quasi-public transportation. I have walked from Orient to Greenport just to see if I could do it.
Wow.
But it's not something I want to do every trip.
No.
So we started out in Peconic. We lived on the beach near Goldsmiths Inlet. And then Miriam and Grayson, our youngest, and her husband were looking around for something to do. They were living in the Berkshires in Massachusetts. And we heard about the Orient Country Store through our good friend Lori Filan, who's a real estate agent in Orient. And she said she thought perhaps, maybe, possibly, the owner who had been there 31 years might be interested in retiring. So we drove out from Peconic, talked to Linton Duell, wonderful gentleman. He's so friendly and so helpful. We made a deal. Miriam and Grayson purchased the store. Dinah and I had no ownership interest, but we helped out. So that was in 2011. And so we've been here for 14 years.
Wow. And just to go back a bit, you moved all over in terms of growing up, but in terms of coming out of high school, did you know what you wanted to do as a career?
I still don't.
What did you end up doing?
Well, I went to college.
Mm-hmm.
I was an English major, which famously is not a career path to anything other than teaching other people to become English majors, and I didn't want to go to graduate school. So I was at Williams College in Williamstown, up northwestern part of Massachusetts, and moved up to the southwestern part of Bennington, Vermont, and lived there for 5 years. I taught elementary school in a public school in Bennington, and then some friends of mine and I got together and started a couple of businesses. I took over the bookstore at Bennington College. I was always a book lover and a bibliophile, so I knew a lot about books, not necessarily about business. And I did that for 2 years. Then I got interested in local affairs, and I was elected to the House of Representatives in Vermont, so I served a term up there. But I realized that politics was not for me. So then I went off to Cambridge to law school, is where I met Dinah, who was in the same class. And then the rest of the story, San Francisco, back to Boston, Ann Arbor, where Miriam was born, Cleveland, and then Bethesda, and then New York City. We have an apartment on the Upper West Side.
Okay. And then when was the first time you had visited the North Fork? Did you ever visit it while you were just for a vacation, or even when you were, I don't know how long you were living in Brooklyn, or when you were younger?
No, actually, Dinah's brother had a little place in Amagansett, so we did take several trips, many trips to the South Fork, both to Southampton and to Amagansett. And I guess I really like the ocean and the beach there. It's very different from the North Fork, but the traffic was just overwhelming. So we decided that wasn't appropriate for just someone moving back and forth. Then we came out here to the North Fork and found, as I say, we found a place on the beach in Peconic, which seemed to push all the buttons. So we moved there. We were there for 4 or 5 years before we came out here to Orient.
And what were your initial impressions of the North Fork? Even it doesn't have to be comparing it to the South Fork, but what did you initially think of the area?
Well, it was quite rural, which was nice. We did go to the Southold Library when we lived in Peconic, and it was a good enough library for me. I'm very conscious of having books available and being able to read widely. This is before the real complete change in the internet, where everything is now available. The things that you can get on artificial intelligence are absolutely phenomenal. So I actually worry about the future of the book. People have been talking about the future of the book for 25, 30 years, but I think the future is going to be much sooner than people now think. So it was quite extraordinary, but I did enjoy using that library. We never considered coming out to Orient, even as a day trip. It was another 13 miles, and it's already 2 hours from the city. So it seemed it was unnecessary to come out here. We had a beach. We had the facilities we needed. I could walk to the jitney stop in Peconic. So it was very nice, but there's no community in Peconic. There's no center. And although the center in Orient is very small, you have the post office, you have Miriam and Grayson's country store, you have a few amenities, but there's really a strong community spirit that people are very active. The Oyster Ponds Historical Society, the Pocatuck Hall, Grayson's a firefighter, Miriam's on the school board. There's a real community there that we didn't have in Peconic. So we moved further out. The beaches are similar, the climate's similar. Just the people, not that they're much more friendly, they're just much more engaged.
And then even with the initial start of the country store, you said you were helping out in the beginning.
Yes, for 10 years I washed dishes. I have a job at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I'm a volunteer there, and it's a back office job in the library, the Watson Library.
Wow.
Libraries are very, very, very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a sort of a crisis during COVID. Nothing was open.
Mm-hmm.
Even my library at the Met was closed. So I joined the New York Society Library, which is the only one but it's a proprietary library, but it was the only thing that in New York that was open. That saved my mental health. But it was important for two things to work in the store. One is Miriam and Grayson, they're still young, but they were much younger. And we were worried that people would think they were just passing through. And we wanted to show that there was a family commitment. So Dinah worked in the front and I worked in the back because I like to work in the back, not in the front. And I just kept washing dishes for 10 years. And that ended around COVID. I retired. Yes. So I did my part. But it was partly to engage the community, to get to know the community, but also partly to reassure the community that we were committed to the village of Orient.
And now just from that time in Orient to coming to today, what do you think of the community, and has it changed at all over that time, even going through COVID and today?
Well, they say the more things change, the more they stay the same. The first thing I ever heard about Orient before I even got out here is people said, "Oh, Orient is a place where old people go to visit their parents." So it was and still is a mature community. In fact, we would love to have more young families, but they can't afford it. This is not a place to start out. This is a place after you've had some success and you got a little money together and you can afford to live here. The living costs are annoying to me, but they're not that high. Electricity is very expensive, unreasonably expensive. We have natural gas. It's very expensive. It's another, as I say, 13 or 15 miles from where we used to live. So that's 30 miles round trip. It's not a cheap place to live, but the real problem is the initial costs, finding a place, being able to afford to buy it. So unfortunately, that means that the population is aging. I'm 78 now. I was 50. I was much younger when we came out here, and that's not atypical. People have wide interests. Lots of artists. Lots of people in the publishing business. Some lawyers, not that many. Some doctors, not that many. A lot of people who work in finance, hedge fund types, who have done well. That's the mature population. The people who are young, who are there, are typically people who grew up there and inherited from their parents. So that's why they can afford it, because they didn't have to make that initial outlay.
Yes.
But a young plumber moving in or a young carpenter moving in, I don't see it. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. So
we have 3 grandchildren, two twin granddaughters who are 7. They're in first grade at the Oyster Ponds, and our youngest is 2.5, and she will be in preschool at Oyster Ponds next year. So we're committed to public education and committed to the kind of opportunities that Orient offers. What happens after 6th grade, we have to explore. We don't know what's going to happen. But certainly the Oyster Pond School itself is a very nurturing, welcoming community. And kids learn from each other, and they learn at home. So not so fixated on the curriculum or the activities. As long as they're happy, they're safe, they're active, that's enough for a 7-year-old. I don't expect them to be reading Kant or doing differential equations.
Yeah.
So that's worked out very well. But going back to the institutions, Grayson's a firefighter, an EMT. Miriam's, as I said, is on the school board. She was here on the library board for a while. So there's plenty of things to keep us active. 3 years ago, when the Russian invasion of Ukraine happened, we became active in that refugee helping. So my wife Dinah started a group called the East End United Community Partners. We sponsored a family of 5, husband and wife and 3 small children. Came over, and they've been living in Orient for 3 years ever since. And that's worked out well. And then we sponsored a couple that's in Florida and another young man who's out in the West Coast. So that's the kind of thing that Dinah had an idea. She had a commitment. And we were able to energize large parts of the community. We raised a lot of money, got people active. People worked very hard to find them a place to live, to find them a place to work, to make sure the kids were set in the schools. The oldest is now at Greenport High School, and the two younger ones are at Oyster Ponds Elementary School. Try to make sure that they were comfortable. Takes a lot of work, but pretty much they're on their own at this point. We're certainly not supporting them financially anymore, and they're working hard. What happens with this new administration, I don't know. We don't know. We know some groups, like the Haitian, Nicaraguan, Venezuelan group, they're very vulnerable, and some bad things could happen to them. So far, there's been no focus on the Afghans or the Ukrainians, the two largest other refugees group, but it could happen. So then we may have to reconstitute and get more active to see if we can help these people.
Yes. Oh, but that's really wonderful that you're doing that in the community. And then I also had a question more so. You said that libraries are important to you. And what do you enjoy about Floyd Memorial Library? And because I see you often come in here, and just your thoughts on the library.
It's a very fine, small library. It's not pretentious. It doesn't pretend to be something that it's not. It's a library that tries to serve the community. When we came here, the librarian, Lisa, had been here for many years. And then when she retired, Tom came in, and then now he's left, and Ellen is now here. They really make a big effort to serve what they perceive to be the needs of the community. Whether they really are or not, it's really unknowable because you're never going to get 100% of the people to come into the library.
Yes.
But if you're an institution that only buys books, shelves books, circulates books, you're not going to last long. And I think the library realized that and is trying to have programs that broaden the appeal. The certainly toddler time is important. We always brought our grandchildren here, or Miriam brings the children here for toddler time. The teen program is always a challenge. It's just, that's a tough age.
Yeah.
13 to 17, they don't know what they want. So how do we know what they want? So it's hard to make programs for that. And not only that, now that in some ways society is closed in a little bit, people spend a lot of time on their phones. Kids, I don't know any teenagers. Our oldest granddaughter will become a teenager in July. I don't really know any teenagers, but it's my impression that they're more self-contained. They have more sources of information that are personal to them, like the phone or all these different social media things.
It's all kind of at their fingertips in a way.
So they don't need to come to the library,
Yeah.
or they don't realize they do need to come to the library. They don't realize that they do.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that. And obviously we have Libby, and people can read books online, and they don't have to come in. But it is nice to see people come in the library and use the resources that we have to offer in-house as well. But I think especially since COVID, we've had to provide other resources.
I think the personnel is great. I've enjoyed my contacts with you. Terry's, I consider a friend. Janet, we're always very friendly when we meet and have conversations. Brian and I get along very well. I've given him some good advice. He's given me some good advice. So it's a good staff. That makes a big difference. And you really make an effort to keep current books. Now, this is not always great literature, but at my age, I'm not particularly interested in great literature anymore. But the current shelves are always full, and they're always current. So I know that's expensive. I know that takes a lot of effort to keep up with it. There are so many books published every year. But I think that for a small library, as they say in England, it punches above its weight.
Yes. Yes, thank you. And then also just looking forward for the community, what are your hopes for the future of the North Fork? Are there any changes or developments you'd like to see or things you want to see preserved?
Well, my least favorite bumper sticker is "Save What's Left."
Mm.
That means here I am. I've got what I want. I'm going to roll up the streets and nobody else can come in.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's selfish and really hypocritical, but also very short-sighted. The problem is it really is attractive to have not that much traffic, not that many crowds, not that much pressure on the water supply, which is not infinite. So you've got to balance. We need more housing, but we don't need more traffic. We don't need more people with swimming pools, which I really detest.
Mm-hmm.
Private swimming pools,
Yes.
very wasteful, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I really don't know. I just hope that Brian and then the people on the board and other interested, there's a lot of volunteers in various commissions that the town runs. Some of them, let's put it this way, some of them are much better than others.
Mm-hmm.
But they all try. They're all good-hearted, I think. They want the best for the community. But anyway, what do I want? Well, I really would like to figure out a way to get younger families into Orient. I don't think it's as much of a problem in Greenport, although as the housing stock is gentrified here in Greenport, and even in the last 5 years, you can see a lot of houses have been spruced up and fixed up and are very nice now, but they're also very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So then they become out of reach of the average young person, a person in their 20s.
Yes.
So I don't know what the answer is. And maybe I'm hypocritical because I really enjoy life here. It's quite relaxing and still stimulating. But that's really the main problem is the population. Who is going to live here? And I'm not trying to look at it from an elitist point of view. That is to say, I'm worried that I won't be able to find a plumber. That's just a very selfish way of looking at it. I just want to see life continue, life go on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things that I really like about Orient, but it's sort of exclusive, it's not open to everybody just because of the cost, is the summer sailing program that the Orient Yacht Club has. It's a great thing for the kids. All these 8 to 14-year-old kids spend an intense summer learning how to sail and then sailing and then competitive sailing.
Mm-hmm.
And when we came here in 2011, a lot of our customers in the summer were kids that would come in from the sailing program who are now college graduates. They're starting families of their own. Are they going to be able to come back here?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if their parents help them, maybe. If their parents are considerate enough to die so they can inherit, then maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I don't see that. I don't see that continuing.
Yeah. And then you worry about the school system and if they have to consolidate.
Well, we're already East Marion and Orient.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think not everybody agrees with me. I've had discussions with several people, but not everybody agrees with me. But I think that the community would suffer a serious blow if we had to close that school because of dwindling population.
Yes. And then what about also just the environment? Obviously, you said housing, and people might come back saying, well, what about we need more housing, but what about the resources? And then on the environment. But I think it's a hard thing to juggle, but there is a serious problem with housing out here. But then also people talk about preserving the land. But I think there should be a way that we can come together to balance that out with.
We keep trying, and sometimes we take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I think people are really concerned about it. They think about it. They worry about it. But we still don't have any really good and it's probably not one answer, one size fits all. We don't have one answer that will solve everybody's problem. I like the building on the North Road in Greenport, just east of Greenport, the cluster housing.
Oh, the vineyard.
Yeah,
the vineyards.
Yeah. So that's the right idea.
Yeah.
I understand that they've had some physical problems there,
Mm-hmm.
which is too bad because it's a very reputable company that did this, but they did screw up a little bit. But at that, cluster housing, we are protected in a sense that the Suffolk County Health Department is very active. We have these new rules about waste.
Mm-hmm.
So there are solutions, but again, the modern septic system costs $15,000 to at least to install, and then it has ongoing costs.
Mm-hmm.
The old time cesspools, you put them in, filled them up over 5 or 6 or 8 years, and then drain them. Somebody would come in and suction everything out, and then it would start over again. But it was relatively inexpensive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's important to have these new systems in. They're protecting the aquifer, they're protecting the environment. But again, it just increases the cost.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And usually just at the end, I usually just like to ask if there was any other last minute things you'd like to say or discuss that we haven't talked about.
Well, I'm looking for the Fountain of Youth. I haven't been able to find it, but other than that, I'm pretty satisfied.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast and share your story. It was really nice to talk with you
Oh, it was
today.
a pleasure. Yeah. Okay, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
So I hope you enjoyed episode 116 with Tom Foster. I want to thank you for listening to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, and we'll see you next time.